Hello, the internet. My name's Laura, and this is The Law of the Prince Charming, Chapter 17.4. They hurry out into the hallway as Tabitha tucks the storybook back into her armor. The huntsman stops next to the Sleeping Beauty, who turns as they approach. Her eyes are black. That isn't the Sleeping Beauty, Tabitha says, taking several steps back. No, it's one of my demons, the huntsman replies, but it's a perfect copy, so it will attract the sleepwalkers just like the real thing. We're going out then, Huntsman says. Just be careful, the huntsman huffs. I'm sure we'll be fine without you, the lioness walks past him. They will be. Don't you lose your head around all that magic, Griffin, the huntsman says. The lioness flicks her tail as she climbs out of the wagon. Tabitha follows, taking in the surroundings in a sweeping glance. The Sleeping Beauty's castle's walls now consist of sections that shine bright white like that of a fairy tale castle in all its glory, and pieces of muted, broken stone of a weathered castle uncared for hundreds of years. It appears the magic had given up trying to fix it halfway through. The dragon moves into view from behind the castle. There are several sleepwalkers milling about, but they are beneath the dragon's immediate attention. It is focused on the wagon. The archer is crouched behind a fallen piece of stone, keeping it between herself and the dragon as the mythic approaches. Remember, nothing overly heroic. You just have to distract it, Wild Rose says. Tabitha pulls out her sword and looks over the intense glow of the laws within the dragon. I'm a heroic knight, she informs herself. Wild Rose grips Tabitha's shoulder. Please be careful. Tabitha kisses him. You too. She runs forward. You will not get past me, dragon, Tabitha shouts the challenge as she plants herself in the dragon's path. The dragon's attention turns to her from the wagon. She sees the laws through the dragon's shift. The dragon opens its mouth and flames lick up from deep in its throat. Tabitha pushes the law of icecraft into her sword, creating the ice barrier in front of her. A screaming inferno rushes from the dragon's mouth, but the fire does not crash down around her. Instead, it doubles back and channels into the dragon's clenched right hand. What the archer asks. The dragon snorts, this time shooting out several small balls of fire, but each of them change course in the same way. Is that where it has the spindle? The summoner questions. Doesn't matter, Tabitha charges forward. Cover me. The dragon shakes its head and roars. It lashes out, claws reaching for Tabitha. A swirling red arrow strikes the dragon's hand, and the scales around it turn dull and gray. The dragon's swing hesitates for just a moment, and Tabitha ducks under the blow, slashing at the hand as she passes. Her sword pierces the scales and rips into the flesh beneath, though not as deeply as Tabitha would like. Incoming! Tabitha hears the summoner in her head. His thunderbird drives toward the dragon, a cloud billowing around it, crackling with lightning. The cloud swells in the space between the dragon's head and Tabitha. The dragon slashes at the cloud, and large bolts of lightning shoot out, racing over its scales. The dragon roars in annoyance, and the lioness exits the cloud in a blur of silver. She rakes her claws along the dragon's neck and rips away a scale or two before the wind catches her wings, shooting her straight up away from the dragon's counterattack. Your opponent is me, Tabitha cries, and knightly courage courses through her. The dragon turns and snakes out its head to bite at Tabitha. An arrow strikes the dragon in the side of the mouth, and vines explode from it, wrapping around the dragon's muzzle, forcing it closed just as it nears the ground. Tabitha runs up and over the dragon's nose, slashing at the dragon's eye while putting the stone ram's law of powerful charge into the blow. Her sword bites deeply into the dragon's eye, and it rears back. Vines rip away as it scratches at its face, roaring in pain. Tabitha stumbles back, rolling once she hits the ground before lunging back to her feet. The dragon turns and steps toward her. A puddle of ice forms under the dragon's foot, causing it to slip and then crash onto its belly. As it hits the ground, its hand pops open, throwing a tiny, insignificant piece of metal into the air, the Sleeping Beauty's spindle. The magic, which had stilled, goes wild again. Snow shoots out of holes in the ground, swirling around Tabitha intensely for a few moments before falling to the ground. In the air above the dragon, the lioness shoots out of the thunderbird's cloud. The winds ripple around her, guiding her wings to send her into a dive toward the spindle as the dragon gathers itself, reaching for it with a teeth-lined mouth for the locust. A wind arrow slams into the dragon's jaw, knocking it off target. The lioness grabs the spindle and launches back into the sky with a blast of air under her wings. Bring it to me, Wild Rose cries. I have a keepsake box. But instead of flying to where Wild Rose is waiting, the lioness turns and begins to pick up speed and altitude in the opposite direction. What is she doing? Tabitha asks. The dragon gathers itself and launches into the air after the lioness, with downdrafts that leaves Tabitha fighting to keep her balance. Is she running away with the spindle? The archer asks. It was too much to expect a mythic to give up that much magic, the summoner groans. The ground beneath the lioness turns to glass. The dragon is gaining on her, its huge wings propelling it through the sky. The space around the lioness shifts in toward the spindle. Tabitha's eyes widen, recognizing the distinctive warping from when the keeper had released the keepsake box holding the blue-eared key. Wyrith! Wildrose screams. The dragon backwings abruptly, trying to turn. A visible wave of magic lances outward from the lioness. Come back! Tabitha doesn't notice the dragon's tail vanish in the collapse. She doesn't see it crash to the ground, leaving a deep furrow in the now broken glass, nor does she see the shallow crater left by the broken locust. Tabitha only sees the empty sky where the lioness had been just a moment before.